Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of My Strange Addiction, Smelling Shoes. Starring Mr. Shoe Smelliest himself, Primal Instincts. And I wanted to show you the tank top I'm wearing for this episode. It says the smell of success, and it has some smelly shoes. That is the smell of success. And let me tell you something, boy, are they smelly. You may have thought that this series was over. This is actually the 5th episode in this mini-series. And it's a pretty popular one. In fact, the 3rd episode that I filmed, which is one of the solo ones, is the 7th most watched video on the entire channel, which currently has 84,000 views. So I will put a link to that one and a little card up in the corner. So if you're new, you can go ahead and watch that one and see what all the hype is about. And without further ado, I'm going to get into this episode of My Strange Addiction, Smelling Smelly Shoes. This one, I went a little bit different of a direction. I didn't ask my friends for their old shoes so I can smell them on camera again. I already did that. Not once, but twice. In fact, I think I did that I've done that in all 4 of the previous episodes. So I wanted to take a different approach this time. I actually took pictures of myself smelling my friends' shoes while they had them at the job we worked at together. And I meant to film this episode while I still lived up north before I moved down here. While I was still working at that job with them, but with all that I had to do to get moved down here, it got put on the back burner. And then I forgot about it for a while, and then I was like, oh look, I still have this folder of these photos that I need to film that video. So here I'm finally doing it. And if you're one of my friends from that job still watching my channel, sorry it took so long. Here it is. Yeah, so after I talk about this, after I soapbox a little bit about sniffing sneaks, I'm going to present a slideshow of me smelling the shoes of various friends of mine at the last restaurant job I worked at in Ohio before I moved down south. So the story behind that is there was a employee bathroom, and a lot of my friends, they like to come to work in their street clothes and go into that bathroom and then change into their work uniform and leave their shoes and other clothes in the bathroom. And when I would have to go to the bathroom and go in there, I would see their shoes in there and be like, oh hey, look at that. That's a treat for me. And I would smell their shoes. And I was like, you know what? This would make a great another episode of the My Smelling Shoes series. So I started taking pictures of me smelling each individual shoes. I mean, one friend had a lot of money, or his parents did at least. So he had like a different pair of shoes for every day of the week. So I'd say probably like 7 of the pairs in the shoes in the collage you are about to see were his. Then I had 2 friends that had really big shoes, size 13. Got a pair of All-Star Chuck Taylors and snow boots that were both that size. And then we got some other cool shoes in there too, like some high tops and some low tops, but you'll see it. But before I get to that, I want to elaborate a little more on the interest itself. First of all, I wanted to let everybody know, I did on the blog of my official website, the nodeohero.com/blog, I did write up an entry a few years ago. It was a Q&A of all the questions that people would send me regarding smelling shoes. Like people would ask me like, is this for real? Do you like the new shoe smell or only old shoe smell? Or do you also have a thing for feet? And I will post a link to that in the video description and in a comment on this as well for you to read that full Q&A. But I also wanted to answer some of the questions here in the video as well. One of the biggest questions I get is, do I sell my own footwear? Why, yes, I actually do. I didn't originally, but I do. If you live in the United States and you have to live in the US, I will wear a pair of socks for up to 7 days and I will mail it to you. The total cost with shipping included is $61. If you want a pair of my shoes, when I'm done wearing them, I sell those for a total with shipping for $150, and that comes with a pair of week-worn socks too as a package deal. The reason I'm announcing this here is when I filmed the first couple episodes of this series, I wasn't doing that for fans, but after such a big devoted community of fellow shoe sniffers found my video and channel and related to me, I was like, you know what? I am gonna do that for people. That would be my own awesome, unique way to dole out some merch for my fans, some more personal merch that they can actually enjoy. Instead of just putting my logo on a pair of shoes and saying, hey, go buy those. I think it's a lot better that way. The other question I want to answer is when people ask me, so you like shoes, but does that also mean you like feet? And the answer is yes and no, not necessarily. And the reason I say that is because we all know that as humans, whether you admit it or not, we're all a little wired to find feet enjoyable. That's just the way people are. It's just the way people's brains are. Some people like them more than others. I am not on that like higher like spectrum. Like feet are just a body part to me. However, if I find a person to be good looking, then I would probably find their feet to be good looking. It's like, hey, I like that person's good looking. I like their face. I like their hair. I like their hands. I like their feet. I like their armpits. And of course, me, I am a little biased when it comes to body parts. Because I do like body odor, I tend to find the smelliest parts of the body to be the coolest. So that means feet, armpits, and hands. Yes, hands, because if you wear gloves for too long, it's just like wearing shoes and socks for too long. Your hands will stink. So that's just the way my brain functions. And another big question is people ask me like, is this serious? And why do you like that? And they want me to explain it. They're just like, and people want to ask too, is it like a sexual thing? And here's my answer to that. No, it's not really a sexual thing for me. It is a result of childhood imprinting. So when I was a little boy, I found it funny that if you wear shoes and socks too long, that your shoes and feet would get smelly. And I mean, it's a bad smell. I mean, think about it. Like that kind of body odor is bacterial. It is bacteria that is metabolizing and breaking down, like excreting, like pooping out the sweat that is on your feet. It is eating it, it is crapping it out, and that is the smell you're getting. It's like bacteria crap in a nutshell. It is meant to be perceived as a bad smell. I perceive it as a bad smell. I retch at the smell of it because I perceive it to be bad. However, my brain gives me a reward feeling for smelling it. And here's why. Because when I was a kid, I found it so entertaining that it would smell bad. It would make me laugh. It would amuse me while it was grossing me out. And what I, like many people as a kid, didn't know, between the ages of 5 and 10, your brain's like a sponge. It's taking in information, it's learning. So I inadvertently, accidentally, taught my brain, I hardwired my brain into thinking this bad smell is a good thing because of how amusing it was to me to experience it. It's like, it's funny. It's like, your feet smell, your shoes stink, right? So that wired into my brain permanently, and I didn't know. So as I got older, I just had this interest, like, I just want to smell people's shoes. It was a throwback to the childhood, like I want to relive that. I mean, think about it. Nostalgia is a powerful thing for everybody. Music you liked as a kid, you will probably still like as an adult. And like me, I liked swinging on the swing set as a kid. I still like to do it as an adult. My imagination still soars like it did when I was a kid. I still feel free swinging on that swing in the breeze, man. So that's just the way it works. That's psychology. That's part of being a human. And it goes along with this kind of stuff too. It becomes an imprinted interest. As far as does it excite or arouse me, it depends. Now, when I say I like body odor, here's how that works specifically to me. The way people naturally smell, and I just mean pheromones. I don't mean like body odor. I mean just like the natural, your own unique musk, if you will, that you will give off if you don't use deodorant. Whether you're male or female, I have smelled natural men and women smells, and I find them both to be enjoyable. I simply like the way people naturally smell. I think it's very pleasant, it's enjoyable. It doesn't like arouse me. I just find it to be a pleasant smell. I really like it. But when it comes to the bacterial smell, here's the difference between those. Because like a person's natural smell, it's only going to be a certain strength, right? But with bacteria, like that can be stronger and stronger. Like the longer you go without bathing or changing your socks, the smellier your feet are gonna be, right? And because of the imprinting on my brain as a child, if I smell mildly stinky shoes or feet, it's simply enjoyable. It's like, hey, I remember that. That's something I've enjoyed as a kid, you know, it kind of feels a little good, but that's it. However, if it's like really strong, like the stronger it is, the more of that like feel good chemical gets released in my brain. And what happens when you get overwhelmed by a pleasurable feeling in your brain? You start to get excited. And that's true for a lot of things. Let's look at some other examples. ASMR. ASMR is not in any way like a sexual thing. But if you're somebody whose brain responds strong enough and you get that tingle in your brain from somebody like, you know, tapping on something or speaking into the microphone in a whisper, and it makes your brain tingle. If the tingle is strong enough, it will arouse you simply because it's a pleasure overload. It does not mean what they're doing is adult, because it's not. I mean, they're tapping on a bottle and they're whispering. It's just because it produces such a strong, pleasurable tingle, it overwhelms your body and it causes that excitement and arousal. So that's nothing to be alarmed about. Again, it's human psychology. It's part of being human. The same thing can also apply if you get really drunk or you get really stoned off some good weed, dude, and it's binding to your receptors so much, and that you get that constant feel good feeling in your head so much that you will start to feel aroused. That's why. It's a pleasure overload. So it's the same thing with me in that bacterial body odor, whether it's like hands from wearing gloves for too long, you know, stinky armpits, not like the natural smell, just like the like body odor funk, or stinky shoes, socks, or feet. It's in levels. It's in layers, donkey. More like levels. And it's the same thing for, you know, I also like holding my breath. Another thing I've done ever since I was a little kid, always curious about pushing my body's limits, and it just became an imprinted interest of mine. Like it became rewarding. Like the longer I'm able to hold my breath for, the exciting it is. Like, so again, it's a thing. It's like if I do it for a little bit, it's fun. Like if I do it for a long time, if I'm like pushed to do it longer, it's gonna start to excite me just because it's that pleasure overload. So I like to differentiate between something being like erotic versus something just being a pleasure overload, if you can understand what I'm saying. Like, I see it as more as this, not this. Like, yes, it can excite and arouse me, and it certainly has, but I don't perceive it that way. Like I said, I still see it as a bad smell. I still think it stinks and it smells bad. And here's another, if you think that's gross, check this one out. This one's also true of me. When I was a kid and I'd be driving in the car with my mom, we would sometimes be driving and the windows would be down, and like a dead opossum or something, the smell of that would drift in through the car and it would just be overpowering. My mom would be like, ew, that smells so gross, and she'd roll up the windows, and I would laugh and think it's funny, just the same way with smelly shoes. It's like, oh, that's so gross, right? So it imprinted on me the same way. These days when I'm driving down the road, and if I catch a whiff of like certain dead animals like that, like an opossum, I believe, like I'll retch from the smell, like, oh wow, that's like strong. But at the same time, I'm getting that like reward feeling in my brain. And sometimes I'll be like, I got time. I'll turn around and drive by it again, and then turn around and go by it one more time just so I can get that extra whiff. Now, I don't get out of my car and take it home with me and sniff it. I don't go that far, all right? I'm gross and weird, but not that gross and weird. But it is an enjoyable smell for me. And it's for the exact same reason. And like I said, it's in levels. The stronger it is, the more enjoyable it is. Pleasure overload equals arousal. And that's why. It's not because it's something I perceive as sexual, because I don't. But thank you for listening. I hope in this episode, I finally put all your questions to rest. Go read the Q&A if you haven't yet. And if you live in the USA and you want to enjoy my clothing, my shirts, shoes, socks, like even underwear, because I've enjoyed shirts and shoes and socks from friends of mine, people I've met. Go ahead and send me an email, thenodiohero@gmail.com, Cash App, Patreon, and Amazon gift card, all my payment options. Thank you for listening to episode 5. I am Primal Instincts, and I am still sniffing shoes. And check out this shirt too if you haven't seen it. Here it is. For those who might want to judge about my open honesty about smelling smelly shoes, walk in my shoes before you judge, okay? But I must warn you, they smell bad, because they do. And now, without further ado, here is the collage of me smelling my friend's shoes that they left in the bathroom at the restaurant that we worked at together. Thank you for watching, and remember to follow your nose and sniff on. There, that's better. That's more rat-like, isn't it? Yeah, it was. Okay. Roll the collage. My strange addiction, smelling smelly shoes.